And we now have the finals. John Goss, winner over Carlos Eldrazi, piloted by Richard Cox in the semifinals, brings him in to our last match. He will be on the play as the number 5 seed. Both players kept 7s, and we are underway. It's going to be Deathrite Shaman to start things off for John.
By many estimations, one of the best turn 1 plays in Legacy right now.
Well, Matthew, he's going to play a great turn 1 play of his own. Mox Diamond gets him an extra land. He does have to discard a land card to make it. His deck, though, 2 main deck copies of Life from the Loam, is able to recoup that after a while.
Yep.
And we may see a turn 1 removal spell, Punishing Fire, hanging out in the opener for Matthew.
You do want to kill Deathrite Shaman on site every time, especially when you have this Life from the Loam package. You want to keep your lands in your graveyard.
And yeah, see there, looks like Punishing Fire will take care of the Mana Elf. John, not a Daze style deck, so he can't Daze this play, but if he has one of his main deck copies, he could Force of Will here. It's very aggressive, but
if you have a turn 2 True Name, I'm kind of into it.
If your turn 2 play is just to exile the Punishing Fire, which it might be for John, he's going to make the play.
Yeah, that's also reasonable.
Discarding his 1-of Snapcaster Mage, or rather exiling it. So he values this Shaman quite a bit. We'll see what the follow-up is. If it's not True Name here, you feel like he has to get rid of that Punishing Fire.
Yeah. And
we'll see Brainstorm. John has free reign to make plays with cards like Brainstorm. It's not a blue deck he's up against. No interaction coming from that side.
And it was not Chalice on turn 1. So for now, he can cast these 1-mana spells.
Chalice, the one probably would have met the same fate in Force of Will.
Yeah. That one, yeah. I can pretty much guarantee that. Wouldn't see so much thinking and hesitation.
And one of the things, and you mentioned this about Mox Diamond, a lot of times in these matchups, Force of Will is card disadvantage. But when you realize that Matthew had to make Mox Diamond to go for that turn 1 play, well, it's not, I mean, it's card disadvantage, but both players made the same play.
Right. Yeah, this is more or less fine.
And he'll sacrifice a Polluted Delta.
Gotta figure you want to exile that Punishing Fire with the Deathrite Shaman here.
Yeah, if you don't, there's a problem. If Matthew just makes Grove of the Burn Willows, he'll use all 3 mana to immediately remove the Deathrite Shaman. That's a bit too much of a risk, and we're going to see Jonathan take care of leave it there. He takes care of a land out of Matthew's graveyard and makes Stoneforge Mystic.
If there's not a Grove there, this is really nice.
You know, and even if there is a Grove there, John now has 2 creatures that Matthew needs to remove. As long as he gets to keep 1 of them, that's fine. Stoneforge will search up Batterskull.
Yeah, if you tag the Stoneforge Mystic straight away, that means that John's hanging out with Deathrite Shaman. Makes things a little bit awkward.
And Matthew will have a play of his own. Looks like Knight of the Reliquary made off that Mox Diamond, so he'll have a turn 2 Knight. Other cards, Green Sun Zenith lands, are available for Matthew. Go back over to John, turn 3.
And with John maintaining this Deathrite Shaman, he can do a lot of work in maintaining this Knight of the Reliquary.
Yeah, there were 2 lands in Matthew's graveyard. One of them's already gone away to Deathrite Shaman. John's going to take the second one and then cast Swords to Plowshare. So he cleans this up very nicely. Only 2 life gained from Matthew.
Short order, he'll be sneaking in Batterskull as well.
Yep. Leaves up the 2 mana to do just that, to go back over to Matthew. Draw was Liliana of the Veil. He has the option between that and Green Sun Zenith. Liliana, though, on a board in front of 2 creatures and a Batterskull about to be put into play, doesn't look as good.
Yeah, edicting away a Squire, not very exciting. But Knight of the Reliquary also just not very significant on this board either.
Green Sun Zenith for 3 from Matthew.
Yes,
Perhaps wants to replace the Knight.
Yeah, gonna make that play.
And get another one. Though, yeah, it's only at 3/3 right now, and Deathright Shaman can keep it at 2-2. It's not actually able to fight with the Batterskull just yet.
Yeah.
So, Stoneforge Mystic will put a germ into play. It'll equip the Batterskull to it. Matthew tapped out, and now John will get to press the attack.
And this would be a good turn for John. If he doesn't have an answer to the Knight, he can use the Shaman to eat the Punishing Fire before the Knight can go and find a Grove of the Burn Willows.
Okay, right, because if he doesn't take that, the Knight will be able to return that burn spell. Looks like Leovold also in John's hand. It's another option for where he can go here.
As it turns out, Leovold's really strong against Punishing Fire as well.
Yeah, now if Matthew wants to use Punishing Fire to shoot down a Deathright Shaman, I guess that's fine. John will just draw a million cards.
Very into that.
Knight shrunk down to a 2-2. John makes Leovold. Interesting enough, this is the Batterskull swings in. This is the first Leovold. We've seen very little of him this weekend.
Yeah, really surprising. Yeah, the 4-color control decks did not perform super well.
Yeah, John Goss, the only one of them in the top 8. I don't know if any of them even playing in the win-ins outside of him, but here he is in the finals and looking great in game number 1. From Matthew, we have Abrupt Decay. That will shoot down Leovold. John draws a card. But this is an opportunity for Grove of the Burn Willows from Matthew. And that's what he's going to do. He's going to use Knight of the Reliquary. Takes care of Scrubland. Check that. It'll go give it a Bayou. I would assume this is for Grove. I liked making Leovold from John, but part of me wishes that Punishing Fire had been taken away.
Would you say that he's about to get punished?
Yeah, I'll go there. Yeah, Matthew will buy back the burn spell. Gets the 2-mana card back from the graveyard, shoots it over at Deathright Shaman. And with Leovold gone, John does not get a card for his Shaman. It simply hits the graveyard. And without Shaman in play, John no longer has control on the size of Knight of the Reliquary. In short order here, the Germ will not be able to attack.
Yep. John's going to need some kind of answer for this Knight. Still no Chalice, so Swords of Plowshares would do it.
Right. We've already seen that happen once. The first Knight of the Reliquary from Matthew was Swords. A swing for 5 from John. Matthew will go down to 11. John up to 27. Can make another Leovold here. He has another copy of the legendary creature in his hand. But as of for now, does not have an answer to Knight of the Reliquary. We might see the players in a standoff here. And here is another Leovold Emissary of Trest. So, let's see if this 3-3 can stick around. Last one was met with an Abrupt Decay.
Yeah, now buying back the Punishing Fire, not very inviting.
Right.
Also, knighting for Wasteland against Leovold, not great either. This card just covers everything. You can go to work on the mana base, and at a point, if you Wasteland enough times, then drawing cards doesn't especially matter. You can spend some time getting up multiple Wastelands on the battlefield. That's somewhat reasonable.
The Esper Deathblade mana base, compared to other decks in Legacy, has a lot of lands that produce mana, however. It has a full 9 mana producers. It has a basic island, 5 different dual lands, some of them in multiples. If that's the strategy, John will get a lot of cards before he starts losing access to colors. Matthew will buy back Grove of the Burn, or the Punishing Fire, using Grove of the Burn Willows. He does have Liliana, but remember, even if you target a player, Liliana also triggers, so you can't use the sacrifice ability. You could have both players discard cards. That one doesn't target.
Yeah.
And Knight of the Reliquary will find Caracas. That'll put Leovold back into John's hand, but John draws a card. And a green mana is floating off the bayou. Used that before he had the Knight sacrifice it. And now Punishing Fire takes care of Stoneforge Mystic. And Dark Confidant the last play. So he had to use that floating mana there. A pretty good turn cycle here for Matthew.
The Caracas can deal with Leovold every turn, though John does get these redraws.
Right.
We're in territory where drawing a true name would be pretty nice.
Yeah, now with these extra cards that Dark Confidant is supplying, we might get to a point where Matthew can just give John a card each turn. If John's play is just going to be to recast Leovold every turn, Matthew may be able to overpower that.
Right, though you do have to be mindful of life totals. John at 27, Matthew at 11. You would like to see those reversed if you're the player controlling Dark Confidant.
Yeah, I mean, you can try to win this late game with Dark Confidant, and it could work, but there are only so many life points to work with. With John at 27, Matthew will have to win by just taking control of the board in a pretty big way, especially now that he takes a Batterskull hit to go to 7.
It's a reasonable argument for just putting Dark Confidant in the way.
Yeah, and he might. He's thinking about it.
He does have Punishing Grove online and Active Knight. He can break through a lot of this stuff, given enough time.
Yeah, so you just take hits from Batterskull, bring back your Punishing Fire, because Batterskull has lifelink. No. He'll chump block away the Dark Confidant. John goes up to 31.
Yeah, he could be reaching for the fire right now because of the Batterskull. He's not.
Well, yeah. Baleful Strix from John. He'll draw. And I like this in an attempt to find more mana sources. Rather than just, you could recast Leovold every turn. On John's side, though, I'd rather see him just develop more and more. And you see this Deathrite Shaman will be added in. You know, get more mana sources out. Eventually, that Leovold play will still be available.
Also, if you're able to keep making land drops, if you get into a position where you can cast True Name and equip it with the Batterskull,
right,
then you can kind of just forget about it.
Matthew draws. He'll use the Grow of the Burnwells to bring back Punishing Fire. That one's going to be cast. He's just trying to time this out just right for the Knight of the Reliquary. Here's Punishing Fire. That shoots down Deathrite Shaman. It has to go for that one. Otherwise, he may lose the Punishing Fire. He certainly doesn't want that. Wasteland's the land for the turn. He'll take care of another one. One card left. I believe it's that Liliana. He had the option between Wasteland and casting Liliana here. Chose to Wasteland.
Yeah, casting Liliana while there's still that Baleful Strix. Not great.
Yeah, I suppose if he's willing to sacrifice a land again to Knight of the Reliquary, he can cast the Liliana. That will remove his blocker, however. And he just says go. Looking at other land, Knight of the Reliquary is going to have to do a lot of work here for Matthew. He already has a lot of his utility in play.
Big draw for John.
Jace the Mind Sculptor.
That card can manage Knight of the Reliquary quite well.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we were seeing Matthew was on the defense. He was trying to set up this kind of control board state with Knight of the Reliquary. He's not in a position to attack, and he's not in a position to threaten a Planeswalker. John's going to pick the -1 ability on Jace. It will be hard for John to go wrong here on this board.
And Punishing Fire can take down Jace from here, but I believe that John's last cards are Force of Will Leovold. That means the Knight doesn't come back down. That means the Batterskull probably closes the game.
Yeah, you see, looks like what happens, Matthew is going to get Grove of the Burnwells with the Knight of the Reliquary activation. That means that right now, he can take care of Jace.
Actually, with double Grove, double Fire can take care of Batterskull. So John kind of has to fight for a window where he can equip the Batterskull to something. So Matthew might still be fine, though. He's under a lot of duress now.
It's a swing for 5. Matthew goes down to 6.
Very much in a spot where top-decking True Name Nemesis should close the game for John.
John gained life off the Batterskull, so Matthew can return the Punishing Fire. It's all going to add up to the same thing. He needs double red, so John gets the life point either way.
Yep.
And he can use this Punishing Fire to shoot down the Planeswalker. Feels like he has to here.
Yep.
And that's going to be the play. Here is Punishing Fire from Matthew. John continuing to gain life. Matthew will worry about that later. Right now, he needs to get control of the board.
Yeah. I guess Matthew still has that Liliana because he has Mox Diamond, that in the scrub land. He's still able to cast that one.
Yeah, unless he draws a land, he can't cast both Knight and Liliana. You see, John just lets the Planeswalker go away to Punishing Fire.
Yep, he knows he's got at least one thing he wants to cover with this Force of Will.
And we look back at Matthew. Drew for turn. We know his hand is in that Liliana of the Veil, Knight of the Reliquary. He picked up another card this turn. Let's see which 3-mana spell he wants to lead on. It looks like it's going to be Knight of the Reliquary. And that's going to get Force of Will, pitching Leovold. It's John's final 2 cards.
And for this turn cycle, the Batterskull will be able to connect.
Yeah, that would put Matthew down to 1. His other card's Dark Confidant. He can't cast that, and if he's going to 1, he's probably never able to cast that. And Umezawa's Jite, the draw for John. He can equip it to really either.
If you put it on the Germ, then it can't get double Punishing Fired. So I think you have to put it there.
Okay, here's a swing. Matthew down to 1.
Yeah, because the Strix would die to fire on this turn, you can't put it there.
Now, if that card in Matthew's hand, though, so he gets to gain life and get that Punishing Fire, is Liliana the Veil, despite the fact that he's at 1, he, I believe, has stabilized. It's not great, but
right.
he is. I mean, that fetch land, you know, that's not doing anything.
Right.
But he can cast Punishing Fire on the Baleful Strix. He can Liliana of the Veil, the Germ.
Okay.
There we go. No more creatures. Matthew's going to do that. Starts off by shooting down the 1/1. Man, John goes to 41. Yeah.
Life
he'll
total
deal
very
42. He'll deal with that later. He is hanging on by a thread here. Liliana of the Veil, -2. Board is clear for now. I mean, there's so much to worry about. Batterskull can be bounced, recast.
Because of the -2, this is a great window for True Name Nemesis.
And he'll just, yeah, it's a great window indeed. Matthew's still a turn away from Liliana being able to answer it.
Needs another Liliana here.
Draws a card.
None of these
Dark
do
Confidant, Punishing Fire, fetch land. And Matthew, he did so well to give himself that opportunity, and John closes the door. True Name Nemesis will take game 1, and it is Esper Deathblade up 1-0.
Yeah, things were starting to come together for Matthew, but you just saw a lot of his stuff. It's just less mana efficient. Batterskull's so large immediately. John gets to be the Force of Will deck, and just there's a lot of stuff going in John's favor in this matchup.
Yeah, and you know, we do see, I think, some of the game plan from Matthew. Because John is not a Lightning Bolt deck here, and if say we'd waited one, put the True Name Nemesis 1 more card down, the card Liliana of the Veil actually can play a major role in this matchup. If he can get, I think the board Matthew wants is once he has Punishing Fire, Grove of the Burn Willows going with Liliana of the Veil, he can answer all the threats from John.
Yeah, even if John picks up and recasts Batterskull, you just double Punishing Fire it.
Right, and I mean, now surviving to that point in the face of all this disruption, these Force Wills, these Deathrite Shamans, okay, that's going to be the hard part, and it's not clear that he can do it.
Yeah.
He was very close, though.
Right.
So looking at the sideboards, we'll start on Matthew Vook's side. Down a game now, he has 3 Leyline of the Voids, 2 Containment Priests, 2 Aethersworn Canonists, 2 Golgari Charms, 2 more removal spells and Swords to Plowshares, 2 Thalias, a Garruk Relentless, and a Reclamation Sage.
So this is kind of amusing because Golgari Charm is one of his various few outs to True Name Nemesis. But if you look at Goss's creature suite, you have a 1/2 in Deathrite Shaman, you have a 1/2 in Stoneforge Mystic, you have a 3/3 in Leovold. It just does so little against most of these creatures.
There's no enchantments in the 75. Oh, there's 1 in the sideboard. Baleful Strix. Boom, got it.
Yep, you get to -1/-1 of the creature that replaced itself. You get the Snapcaster Mage, too.
Yeah, I mean, but you have to remove these True Name Nemesis, and John plays 4.
Yeah, it's tough, so you probably have to bring in one or both of those, even though it's pretty awkward.
Right.
Swords to Plowshare is reasonable against most of the other stuff, but there's just not a lot to like in this sideboard. You probably reach for Reclamation Stage. You want to beat Batterskull.
I want him to board in Garruk Relentless. This is the kind of card, it's a 4-mana Planeswalker. These games go long.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to fight down a Stoneforge Mystic with one and then start making Death Touch Wolves, yeah, I'm pretty in.
Yeah, I'm not against it.
Over on John Goss's sideboard, 3 Zealous Persecution, 3 Surgical Extraction, 2 Council's Judgment, 2 Flusterstorm, 2 Meddling Mage, a Sword of Fire and Ice, the 3rd copy of Leovold, and then 1 Sylvan Library.
Council Judgment's pretty nice because you're dealing with a lot of 3-mana permanents that you want to have answers to. You also want to have an answer to Chalice of the Void in a number of spots.
Right. I like that a lot. It gives him a clean answer to Liliana the Veil, too.
Right. I honestly don't hate Meddling Mage here, even though it's not a slam dunk. There's a lot of positions where, you know, like you say, I'm bad against Night of the Reliquary right now, or I'm bad against Liliana. You have some protection against whatever one matters. It's also a card that can pitch to Force of Will. Yeah, you'll hear about a lot of blue cards in Legacy.
I mean, I don't hate the idea of naming Punishing Fire with that.
Yeah, also totally reasonable.
One I'm interested in, 3rd copy of Leovold. I liked Leovold that game. I wouldn't mind seeing more.
It's fine.
Sylvan Library, I generally like against this deck, but my concern is they know they're each other's deck lists. And if there's Golgari Charms in Matthew's board, that these bad Golgari Charms that Matthew has to bring in, I'm not sure John wants to suddenly start putting enchantments in his deck.
Right. My general rule for Sylvan Library is you have to be willing to spend 8 life if you want this card in your deck. I think this is a matchup where that's reasonable.
Yeah, I mean,
but you're
42.
exactly right. Yeah, exactly. He had some to spare. You could have paid 24 life, you know? You could have paid 30 life. You're exactly right. This Golgari Charm, it does complicate things a little bit, so this might stay on the sideboard partially because of that reason. So pretty light sideboarding here, I would imagine.
Yeah, Matthew will be on the play here for game number 2. Now, as we reach the end of this week, and we're going to look ahead at our next SCG events. It's not on the SCG Tour, but in 2 weeks, we actually have a Grand Prix here. It's going to be Grand Prix Atlanta.
On November 10th through the 12th, make plans to be part of Magic the Gathering history when StarCityGames.com proudly presents Grand Prix Atlanta. Play in the standard format main event to compete for thousands of dollars in prizes and a spot on the Magic the Gathering Pro Tour. Select the 3-day Infinite Challenge package to compete in all challenge events for one low price, while also walking away with the exclusive Sunblessed Mount playmat. Get the best of both worlds with the Main Event Plus package. Play in the main event, get the exclusive playmat, and compete in challenge events all weekend long. All Friday challenges are also Grand Prix trials. Come out early and compete for buys in the main event and more chances to claim a Sunblessed Mount playmat. Prefer 100-card formats? Register for the Ultimate Commander package to play in 4 Commander on-demand events and take home a Commander vs. Playmat and Ultimate Guard Boulder deck case. Want to play on Magic's grandest stage? Compete in the Pro Tour qualifier on Sunday and receive a Progenitus foil promo just for playing, plus the chance for an invitation to Pro Tour Rivals of Ixalan in Bilbao, Spain. And don't forget to come say hello to Grand Prix Atlanta's many special guests, including cosplayer Christine Sprinkle and an artist alley full of fan favorites, headlined by guest of honor Therese Nielsen. Be part of Magic the Gathering history. Register for Grand Prix Atlanta today.
That's going to be one of the more interesting Grand Prix. The Grand Prix the week after the Pro Tour of the same format's always an interesting one. You see that shake-up and then see... Well, when you watch the Pro Tour, you always get these really heavily metagamed decks. And then you walk away from thinking, is this new standard, or was this just people who know how to win one tournament?
Right.
And you find it out at that Grand Prix.
Yeah, frequently you see a deck just dominate the Pro Tour, and then next week everyone just knows how to beat it. You know, you're like, I bought the deck that won the Pro Tour, and then I lost to the deck that won the Week 1 Grand Prix.
Yeah, remember when we saw, what was it, when Kaladesh came out, the Finals of Pro Tour, this, this torrential Gear Hulk mirror right out of the gates. And like, that's
I was so happy for 2 weeks.
You're like, this is what the format's about.
I get to beat everybody because I'm really good with Glimmer Genius.
These Marvel decks, they're horrible. I just beat those all day. And those black-green Constrictor things, what do they do?
Yeah, then everything changed.
All right, game 2 is going to put Matthew on the play. No Mox Diamond, though, so no Chalice of the Void just yet. He'll just play Windswept Heath and pass. And we'll get a look at his hand. It's Thoughtseize from John Goss. Looks like a mulligan to 6 for Matthew. The 6 that we kept, though, Fetchland. He has Barren, Moor, Wasteland, and Verdant Catacombs as his lands. He then has a Golgari Charm. We mentioned those out of the board. And really a Dark Confidant. It's kind of hand that on 6 you keep, but boy, it has some problems with the Thoughtseize.
Right. Golgari Charm is for exactly True Name Nemesis. John sees it face up.
Right. So it's easy here for John. You know, he can take the Dark Confidant and say he has something like a Stoneforge Mystic in his hand. Just
forget about it.
Yeah. It's going to check Golgari Charm. So -1/-1 to all your opponent's creatures. Destroy target enchantment.
Or regenerate each creature you control. The secret mode on Golgari Charm.
I always liked these ones with those Ravnica 2-mana charms. There's always that mode you forget about on each one.
I don't think I've ever seen it happen.
It was like when I used to play blue-white control. Every time it was Zorius Charm gave my team lifelink, I just like feel really happy. It's like, ooh. That's the secret. You know, they'd be racing and you'd be like attacking with an Aetherling.
I always think
lifelink my Aetherling.
I always think of Jund Charm putting 2 counters on a creature. It just
That
like
was
never
nice,
happens
yeah.
until every like 3 months somebody hits you with a 5/4 Bloodbraid Elf or something. And Golgari Charm was the take. Presumably John just has some answer to Dark Confidant, be it Swords to Plowshares or what have you.
If you're taking the charm, it either means John's hand's just a stack of True Name Nemesis, or he's got the Dark Confidant covered. Now, off the top, Matthew draws Chalice of the Void. It's possible John's answer was Swords to Plowshares, and that's enough to Force of Will.
Yeah.
I suppose when you're exiling Brainstorm to Force of Will, you're like, well, the Brainstorm's dead no matter what.
I really want to keep this Brainstorm, but I guess it would never resolve. So we'll pitch it.
Yeah, it looks like Swords to Plowshares was John's answer to the Confidant, too. You see it in his hand.
And it still is.
Yeah. Matthew, in going for the Chalice of the Void, he didn't use this Wasteland, which means if John has a turn 2 play, say a Stoneforge Mystic, he will get an opportunity to put it into play.
Yep. I do like that, you know, because Matthew's deck is mostly 2 and 3 mana things. Using your Wastelands aggressively, it puts you off of your action.
And not that one, but now we see why he wanted the Golgari Charm gone. He actually has the enchantment. It's going to be Sylvan Library.
Sure. He has 16 life, so he could pay up to 12.
That's my style. Every time I said, I want to see just how many cards can I draw. I don't really care how much it costs. I want more cards in my hand. I mean, he could pay 4. He could pay for, you know, he could pay 16.
I would recommend against paying 16.
You know, he'd lose with a lot of cards in his hand.
He'd probably want to gain life first.
Matthew fetching here. Has he drawn a 3-drop? We'll see. It's going to be Abrupt Decay on the Sylvan Library. That was his pickup for the turn. So despite being hit pretty hard by a Thoughtseize, the top of Matthew's deck, doing okay for him so far. It's keeping things even at least, and Wasteland will take care of the Tropical Island. Let's see if John has some recovery. Looks like he does have more lands. And he'll fire off another Thoughtseize. Green Sun Zenith and Dark Confidant, the 2 options.
Still has the swords. So that kind of covers both of these. So take one or the other. The Zenith can really only find Dryad Arbor right now. So that kind of makes me want to go for the Dark Confidant.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about mana ratios, it's Dark Confidant's a 2-drop. Zenith is probably a 3 or a 4. So it doesn't really matter. He'll take the Zenith. And passes back to Matthew. Dark Confidant's the play. Dryad Arbor was the draw. Swords takes care of Dark Confidant. John, 1 card in hand, about to draw 2. Matthew, 0. So now we have a top deck war between these mid-range decks.
Pretty amusing that Dryad Arbor was the top deck because that invalidated the Green Sun Zenith.
Yeah. They can still find.
Well, going into the next turn, it can start to find 2s.
Yeah.
Then after you draw the Arbor, you can find Scavenging Ooze.
I like that. And for John, he's going to Swords away the Dryad Arbor.
Get him.
Well, I like that. I think that's because if Matthew top decks Liliana of the Veil, John actually can't beat it right now.
Right.
So he kind of has to make that play.
Yeah. Also, Green Sun Zenith for Scavenging Ooze would have been actually pretty good there.
Yeah. Matthew draws a forest. Sits there with 3 lands in play. John, no plays. 2 cards in hand. Matthew now hopes to draw some action. It's land number 4. John, Hits a land. It's a wasteland. Not sure he wants to fire that off right now. There's not a great target yet.
Yeah, you can remove white mana, which insulates you against a top deck Knight of the Reliquary.
Okay. Sylvan Library, though, for Matthew. That's a huge one.
That's going to get Council's Judgment.
If he's got it, it's definitely going to get Council's Judgmented. And it will. The Council... John can't have a library, a Sylvan Library, and neither can Matthew. That one's exiled.
Our public works are under attack.
But if you want to get into a top deck war, here's a card that's very hard to beat. It is Life from the Loam from Matthew.
And there's a Wasteland. And there's only non-basics on the other side of the table.
Yeah. And with Baron Moore, not just a Wasteland, but Matthew has a cycling land. That allows the Life from the Loam to power up here. I mean,
start looking for some punishing grooves.
Eventually, yeah, he'll mill over Punishing Fires and Grove of the Burn Willows. And yeah, so with getting the mana producers here, he actually can loam again this turn. You see Baron Moore cycled, and Matthew with the Surgical Extraction. Or John with it, he hits the Life from the Loam.
Right, that's pretty nice.
That's nice. I mean, with this Baron Moore, Matthew could have protected against this. I don't know.
I guess one card in hand, you know.
You know, like, it gets him very good here, though. This is a great answer for John.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate for Matthew that John had this. I don't know that it's wrong of him to go for this play. Like, if he was going to never make this play to just respect respect Surgical Extraction, that is paying a lot of respect to that.
Right. And we're still just in the position where both players are trying to top deck something meaningful.
Yeah.
And the cycle and the Baron Moore actually gives Matthew the first crack at that.
Yeah. I suppose Life from the Loam was something meaningful. It was a slow version of it, but it was. He drew a card still off Baron Moore, but wasn't able to dredge. And now we see Deathrite Shaman from John.
I think Matthew picked up Punishing Fire.
Well, I'll take that one. And you know, if you go back, if John has Deathrite Shaman on top of his deck, he's going to force this Surgical Extraction play on the next turn. You know, Deathrite Shaman tries to eat the Loam, Matthew tries to save it with Baron Moore, then the Surgical happens. But you're right, Punishing Fire will take care of Deathrite Shaman, board still clear. No one really has a late game just yet. It's starting to feel like Matthew has maybe the more powerful top decks. Though I guess John will always top deck Jace or True Name Nemesis. We could 5 lands apiece could go either way.
Jace would be excellent. I think Stoneforge Mystic into Batterskull is probably John's best top deck. Well, maybe not. So I'm trying to think of being insulated against Liliana of the Veil. So if you Stoneforge or Batterskull, then the Liliana just discards that, and then you have a 1/2. So it would have to be like that running into True Name, but that would still be very good.
I guess if we're fighting top decks, you always want being the Brainstorm deck is always a great place to be, which is John. Keep players continue to trade draws. If though Matthew can find something like a Liliana, a Knight of the Reliquary, those are going to be what he's building toward. Actually, a Ramanap Excavator would be a very nice draw.
Yeah, that would get that Wasteland going.
And players' hands starting to build up again. No one has made a move just yet. Punishing Fire picked up there for Matthew. Players playing their cards pretty close. When we'll see what all they've picked up. It looks like Jonathan finally makes a threat. It's going to be Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, still hasn't really drawn his high impact cards.
You see Matthew because he has so many lands in play. He has Punishing Fire there, but didn't really go for it yet. Chalice of the Void drawn by Matthew. He will set it to 1. In response, we may see, well, it takes me another Surgical Extraction on Punishing Fire. So John will use the Punishing Fire in his hand first, but now those are gone. That's a big win for John to get those out of the deck too.
Yeah, no kidding. Was able to set that up before the Grove of the Burn Willows showed up to play.
So without, you see Matthew's hand of a Mox Diamond, Maze of Ith, and Abrupt Decay. Without Loams, without Punishing Fire, Matthew's late game feels pretty beatable here.
I mean, he doesn't have like these huge engines anymore.
Yeah.
He's still drawing to Knight of the Reliquary, which does close the game in very short order.
Okay.
And he's still pretty live with that Ramunap Excavator. It would take some time, but you could wasteland John out of the game.
Yeah, and I guess with Chalice of the Void set to 1, it's not that easy for John to remove Ramunap. But he may not need Picked up one of his 4 copies of True Name Nemesis, and that's going to go to work. It's the 7-turn clock here.
Matthew needs a Liliana. Or that other Golgari charm, I suppose.
Well, this might work. One player draws their winning 3 drops, so the other will do as well. Knight of the Reliquary for Matthew. And with a Chalice on 1, John is short on ways to answer this.
Right. Yeah, he's in a little bit of trouble. He can always just keep the True Name back and get it in front of the Knight, block indefinitely in combat.
Yeah. 2 Wastelands already in Matthew's graveyard, so he only has to worry about the Knight searching up 2 more. It's not going to take all his lands. Yeah, I'm looking at John's list if he has ways to remove the Knight without taking care of Chalice first. I guess
Post-sideboard, he has these Council's Judgments. He's already gone through 1, but he has a 2nd copy.
He could draw his Umezawa's Jite and then just not care that Knight's in play.
There's a lot of lands in Matthew's graveyard already.
Yeah, the Knight's pretty big. And John at 14. Stoneforge Mystic from John.
Suiting True Name up with Batterskull.
Yeah, I like the sound of that.
That's a nice avenue to victory.
Yeah, he could get Jite. Looks like he's going to take the Batterskull. You're right. Sword of Fire and Ice is actually also in his sideboard if he's looking for another card, though I'd be surprised if that had been boarded in.
The thing about trying to equip Batterskull is Matthew can find his other 2 Wastelands with this Knight and try to push you off of that with mana.
Yeah, he could knock John down on mana. He would need to have 5 to make the play. You're right. And it's going to be hard if he gets Jite to actually outpace Knight of the Reliquary. Knight is already, as you mentioned, it looks like a 6/6. So John's going to get Batterskull. Jite just doesn't look like it adds up.
Yeah, this changes a lot if John can produce a 2nd True Name Nemesis. Then you have 1 offense, 1 defense.
And they toss the Batterskull back and forth, or not. Here's a swing. Matthew down to 17.
Well, Batterskull gives Vigilance. I don't think he's going to get there because of Wasteland.
Matthew's defense is to stop John from ever equipping. Abrupt Decay will shoot down the Stoneforge Mystic, gives a chance for Matthew to draw a very timely Liliana of the Veil. See Maze of Ith in Matthew's hand. That's no help against True Name Nemesis.
With the destruction of the Stoneforge Mystic, I would imagine you're going to see a very proactive Wasteland here to stop that Batterskull from being cast.
I'm actually a little surprised that Maze of Ith is still in Matthew's deck right now. You look at John's threats like Leovold, True Name Nemesis. I mean,
yeah, boarding it out would make a lot of sense. It's easy to overlook when you have a weird land, the situations you're supposed to board it out.
Green mana floating, Matthew will search up Wasteland, and I like the play. Wasteland takes care of Underground Sea, so now the Stoneforge gone too. It's not just the Batterskull can't equip to True Name. He's hoping to trap Batterskull in John's hand completely. That's the 3rd Wasteland into the graveyard for Matthew. He can search up another one next turn. He needs to dodge John just drawing a land this turn.
Speaking of trapped in hand, John had his Tropical Island Wastelanded a while ago, and I'm pretty sure he has Leovold in his hand, and outside of Deathrite Shaman, he cannot cast that card anymore. Tropical is his only green land.
Oh. Yeah, we do see that right under that Thoughtseize is his Tropical Island. And Deathrite Shaman is being kept in check by Chalice of the Void. There's no card like Green Sun's Zenith to sneak the Deathrite Shaman into play another way. Yeah, I don't think he can cast Leovolds for this game.
It's just going to hang out until it gets pitched to a Force of Will, I suppose.
Well, okay, there's one other line. He has 1 more Council's Judgment. He could Council's Judgment the Chalice, play the Deathrite, then make the Leovold.
Sure.
This is... Ugh. I don't know how reliable that is. But here's something. John did hit the land. So he has 2 more fetch lands. Now the question is if he has 2 more lands to get out of his deck. But if he does...
His deck has 9 total fetchable lands that tap for mana.
Yeah.
Still, yeah, it looks like he does. I see a couple white-bordered cards. He has a basic land in his deck as well. There's 1 island.
Okay, so with that land draw for the turn, John can make Batterskull. And
apologies, there's Savannah here. So I'm not exactly sure why he's been hanging on to Leovold.
And that's, but now, those may have been his only fetchable lands. He is exposing that last green mana source as he casts Batterskull here. It's a real cost for John.
And there is that on the table Knight and the 4th Wasteland somewhere in Matthew's deck.
Yeah, True Name Nemesis swings in for 3, Matthew at 14. And the clock's very acute here. Matthew at 14, True Name picking up Batterskull is exactly 7. It is 2 turns.
Yeah, you got to try to push him off of that.
Matthew, he's going to start counting. Just how big is the Knight? The answer's pretty large. We'll get confirmation on that. I believe it's an 8-8.
Not big enough.
Not a 12-12.
And John's already surgical punishing fire, so there's not going to be any reach for Matthew.
Mox Diamond, Ramanap Excavator. Looks like it may have been the draw, though, for Matthew. That's really strong here.
Yeah, you can go to work with Wastelands.
Yeah. I like that a lot. He'd have to force John to top deck another land. If John doesn't, then the True Name will have to win without a Batterskull. Matthew's gonna actually play Maze of Ith as his land for the turn, though. That doesn't interact very well here. I'm not.
So the thing that Maze of Ith lets him do, if he attacks with Knight, you get to connect, and then at the end of combat step, you can Maze to untap the Knight and still get an activation this turn. So it doesn't actually take him off of Wastelanding because he can still search up the 4th Wasteland.
So it looks like he had a rules question on it. It hadn't been put into play. It was kind of asking how it would work. Got the ruling, and then says, okay, well, he didn't really like what he heard. So once you've got the information, now he's going to make Ramanap Excavator. And I do think that is the better play with how this works out.
Yeah. Well, with the Knight or with the Excavator, you still get to Wasteland this turn.
Yeah, and he'll go to work. Wasteland. He could Wasteland a Wasteland if that's one of his priorities. He can also take away John's last green source. There's a lot of things to like there. He's going to start actually on the Tundra. May not. It's probably better on Savannah to strand Leovold here.
Right.
But, I mean, deck lists are face up, but you can't actually consult the face up deck lists during the game. You have to just remember them.
There's a lot going on in this list. You're likely referencing spells way more than you are mana bases.
And it looks like Matthew's actually, he's going to go ahead and use the Knight to get the last Wasteland. He's really concerned about John just drawing that 4th land, moving the Batterskull over to the True Name. So he decides he just doesn't want any chance of that. He'll use Wasteland twice to put John down to 3 lands.
Yep, I like that play a lot. Also, with one of these mana sources being Wasteland, can't cast Leovold.
One I'm interested in.
No blue mana, so you can't True Name Nemesis.
No, John's basically going to have to win with what's on the table. He might be able to do it, though. Let's just see whether Matthew can afford to keep that Ramanap Excavator alive for another turn. Could take 3 or 7.
Yeah, that Batterskull's attack is pretty free.
Yeah. John sends them both. That part's easy. Now, Matthew, this block is a pretty big choice for him. If the Ramanap Excavator survives, then he can recur all these Wastelands. He's basically going to stop John from casting anything else this game.
Yeah, and you see that Matthew has maintained these 2 uncracked fetch lands. That is significant.
Yeah.
If he were to take the hit, if he goes to 7, that's more than 2 hits from True Name Nemesis.
Yeah, the discipline of not cracking those at any point looks like it'll give him an extra turn. And Matthew takes the hit. Council's Judgment post-combat, though, for John. And, you know, some punishment there on Matthew for the lands he decided to Wasteland here.
Yep. I understand where he's coming from.
Yeah.
Taking off blue mana shuts off the possibility of a follow-up True Name Nemesis. That's all well and good. But yeah, you ended up getting hit by that second Council's Judgment. And that was less likely. That's the second copy. There's only 2. There are 3 more True Name Nemesis.
So now for Matthew, he's going to have to find an answer. He plays Mox Diamond, discards Maze of Ith, brings Maze of Ith back. It's fine, makes Dark Confidant. Now, John still has a Wasteland. The Maze keeps the Germ token in check, but True Name can continue to chip away.
Pretty sure you just don't even attack with the Batterskull because you just want this Dark Confidant to help you out.
Ooh. Wasteland takes care of Maze of Ith. John's going to attack with both.
If both creatures block, you trade with both of them with your Germ, which I guess is fine. This opens you up to getting Liliana, though.
Yeah. Dark Confidant moves in front of the Germ token. So Matthew down to 4. You know, Matthew gets 2 draws either way here, just to find Liliana. He's got 3 lands for it. It's going to make Mazavith. Did he draw it? Not yet. And I guess even now, drawing Liliana's not good enough either.
Yeah, it would have been good if he double blocked with the Excavator. I'm not entirely sure. He gets to get back Mazavith, which checks the Germ token, which is what he did here. But it turns off Liliana as a top deck against True Name Nemesis.
Yeah, he would have lost both his creatures, and I understand him not wanting to make that play. Here's another Dark Confidant for Matthew. I mean, he's going to go to 1 on the hit. Dark Confidant, if the top card's a land, Confidant will give him a redraw. He goes to 1. Very likely to lose the game to this Dark Confidant trigger. And there's the out. There's the Liliana. And John Goss, 2-0, is going to win this one. He is your Washington Open champion.
Yes.